Welcome, golfers, to the next episode of the Read It, Roll It, Hole It podcast. Today we have got guest on the show, Chris Ryan. Welcome.
How are you? We managed to navigate a little internet issue on my end, but we're all good now.
We're all good, yeah. It's funny, you're looking like Louis Oosthuizen today.
I don't play like him. If we went on the golf course, you'd soon realise I'm not.
When you first come onto the screen with all your logos on your top, and I was looking for, is it Ups or no? What's his? He's got
UPS, isn't it?
It is UPS on his top.
Yeah.
And I thought that's what you had, and I'm like, Christ, he's got a special guest for me.
I get more than anyone. I get Eric Van Rooyen.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I get people sending me tweets going, "Is this you?" On the oh, clearly it's not, but yeah, when he's got his beard and he wears a sort of similar hat, so I get him a lot.
Get him a lot. Oh, there we are. But yeah. You literally, made me look twice there. That's cool. But Chris, for the listeners who maybe don't know you, you're a coach at the Forest of Arden in the Midlands, close to where we were just talking about it, very close to Stonebridge, where I coach 2 days a month. You're a very successful YouTube. You got a not YouTuber, but I don't know if you like that word, but you've got a successful YouTube channel with over 313,000 subscriptions. Pretty cool. Subscribers even.
Yeah, that's good.
You've taught over 10,000 lessons to all levels of golfers over a few years of being a pro. Last 20 years, is that right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it was like early 2000s. I kind of started the journey. First couple of years were as an assistant, but I was kind of teaching right off the bat. So yeah, it's been getting on for 20 years now. I feel old now.
20 years. It sounds like a long time, but you don't look as old as Louis, so you're right.
Yeah.
Talk us through that journey then, Chris. Like, give us a little bit of a background from sort of where you've been and where you've sort of come to today.
So I probably came into golf relatively late, although sort of I say late on kind of today's basis really, because when I started, it wasn't really the done thing. So I think I was like probably 12 or 13 before golf was even really on my radar. I mean, nowadays they're like 4 or 5 years old, aren't they? And if you're not able to shoot under par by the time you're 10, you give up. So I was kind of 12 or 13, started relatively late, but it was pretty clear that within the first, couple of months of having a go at golf, I was like, this is like, I want to either play golf or work in golf or be in golf. I was like, this is just what I want to do. So that kind of, so I was kind of Wolverhampton way. So joined a club, started playing, got a handicap. When I was off school, it was like, if it was light outside, I was on the golf course. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. I mean, I couldn't do it now, but I mean, I'd play 2.5, 3 rounds and then practice, and it was crazy. And I think, when you've got that amount of time and you're that age, your rate of improvement can be pretty quick. So I managed to get down, and then started having lessons at the Belfry with a guy there called Simon Wordsworth, great coach at the time. And he kind of gave me a bit of a way into... My coffee machine is just going off. That's really probably annoying in the background. He kind of said, look, we're taking on a group of golfers who we want to put through the training. That was early 2000s. So I joined the Belfry team and kind of did my PGA, qualified from that. And then it was really a case of, okay, what do I actually want to do? And I was club fitting at the time. I was working in the TaylorMade suite. I was working in the TaylorMade 3D suite, which we were at the time was the first in Europe. So I was kind of running that, but I don't know. I enjoyed fitting, but I didn't love it. My passion for fitting wasn't the same as it was for playing the game. Okay. But I kind of felt that when I started coaching more, I was like, okay, my passion for coaching is equal to my passion for playing. In my head, I probably figured I could probably make more money playing, but I needed to be a lot better than I was. So I just kind of went down the coaching route, found that was more what I was into. I found I was more engaged with that. And that was probably 2005, 6, when I really started to sort of think that, okay, so my career is going to be as a golf coach. And then, fast forward to 2022 today, and I'm still a golf coach really. And that's pretty much what I say to people as I'm a golf coach. I just do it in a little bit of a different way than I did back in 2005, 2006.
What's the biggest difference between 2006 to 2022?
I mean, I think 2006, I was really looking at sort of how can I build my lesson diary? How can I, get a stable of players? How can I fill golf schools, golf events? Whereas now it's very much more just the online stuff. So it's still, I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still trying to help your average golfer get better in the easiest possible way, but it's kind of, changed a little bit from how can I fill my lesson diary to suddenly, how can I deliver better content online? And that's the biggest change, really. What I deliver on a day-to-day basis isn't different. It's just how that message is getting across to the golfer.
When did you open your YouTube channel? Do you know? I should have gone to the earliest video and played it for you.
Well, yeah, you shouldn't do. It's that first video is funny. It looks like the screen's frozen, but the audio's playing because I'm standing there like not moving at all. It's literally just my mouth moving. It looks like the screen's frozen. I think it was 2000, and I think my first video was like 2013, maybe. Okay. Might have been like December of that year. So I think that was when my first video went up. And then, to be honest, since then, I've been pretty consistent in terms of putting stuff out there, really. Maybe the first couple of months was, a video here and there. But, once I sort of figured that was going to be something I put a bit of focus and effort into, it's been pretty consistent uploads. I mean, I wouldn't even know how many videos are on there now. It's got to be 500-600 maybe.
Yeah, I didn't go into your first video or how many videos, but I've got some good video questions coming. But just going back to the Belfry days, there I've got fond memories of the Belfry doing our PGA training there. Was it the same for you, or I suppose you weren't on site, were you, when you were doing your training, or was it still there?
Yeah. So what was weird was that, I mean, anyone doing the PGA, whether you're Ireland, Scotland, wherever, you had to go to the Belfry for a week, to do that residential week. And then obviously it was kind of like, Bel Air and the bars and the restaurants got abused. And we had to stay on site. We had to pay to stay on site. And we'd always go to the PGA and go like, I live 10 minutes down the road. Why have I got to pay £400? But it was just you had to stay on site. There was a few Bel Air trips and there was a few late nights in the bar, but that's just because the done thing going through PGA, wasn't it? It was
definitely
when
I was Irish fellas.
Yeah. I mean, luckily when I was there, no one got kind of ejected from the morning seminars, but I'd heard some stories about a few people who were kind of late, not turning up, or kind of kicked out because they weren't in the best state. But yeah, that was good days they were.
Tell us, tell the listeners what the Bel Air is and what your experiences of it are.
So the Bel Air. So basically, I mean, this is like everyone's dream, isn't it? Really, you drive into a Ryder Cup venue, so already you're like, this is good. You drive in. On the right hand side, you had one of the best academies in the UK. On the left hand side, you've got one of the best golf courses. And then also on the left-hand side, you've got a nightclub. I mean, like, what more do you want? If you're going to go somewhere to play golf, you've got a driving range, an immense golf course, and a nightclub. And it was quite well known back in the day. I mean, my dad used to go there. My mom used to go there.
Oh, really?
And I think because of where the Belfry is, it kind of changed a little bit when drink driving was a lot more kind of clamped down on it. I mean, back before I was at the Belfry, people used to drive there and stuff, but it was a little bit more out the way. So it kind of got to the point where when I was working there, if the hotel was busy, the Bel Air would be busy. But it was just a weird experience because it was a hotel nightclub. The range of people in there were, I mean, you had all sorts, from like the people doing their PGA training to people doing a conference to people who were just in the hotel who just stumbled in there to figure out what was going on. But yeah, there were some good nights in there.
Yeah, I do remember some of it quite well. Well, some of it, and we'll sort of, strange people. I think we'll leave it like that for sure. Happy day. I did my training with a couple of fellow Brummies. Stuart. I called him Stuart Haggis. What's his name? Did he used to work there? And Chris Bradbury. Did he used to work at the Belfry with you? No, Chris Bradbury. So. Stuart's the head pro at Wentworth now, but I call him Stuart Haggis.
Oh, well, I know. Stuart.
He's a
Yeah, I know what you
Scottish
mean. Yeah,
Scottish
yeah,
guy, top bloke.
yeah.
And who knows what his surname is, but we call him Haggis because
Yeah, no, he's a good guy actually. I see him a little bit when I go to Wentworth. Yeah, he's doing well down actually.
he's a good guy.
Short
But yeah,
boil, I
did
think.
my training with those guys. Remember falling asleep on beanbags with John Finn doing our sports science. So all good fun memories at the Belfry.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
like you mentioned, the YouTube channel growing, and regular content. Is that how you talk us through how you grow from, you know, starting that video where you were stood there still to all of a sudden 313 subscribers and a very successful, and one of the sort of leading golf instructors in the UK, really up there with the big boys.
I mean, for me, it was I'd gone to I was as I said, I was one of the club fitters working for TaylorMade. Well, not working for TaylorMade, working for TaylorMade Tweet, and I kind of realized that wasn't really what I wanted to do for the next however long. So I was like, right, I'm going to do coaching. So I kind of took a bit of a punt, spoke to the Belfry and said, look, I was on a contract, and I said, look, can I reduce my contract to 0 hours, go self-employed and coach? And they kind of said, yeah, which was great. They gave me that opportunity to do that. So suddenly I've gone from having a job, a contracted job, to suddenly being self-employed and coaching. So when I did that, my diary wasn't completely full. I was trying to build my diary. So very often I'd go in and I might have, some coaching from 9 till 11, and then I have a gap until kind of 3 o'clock. And then I might do some coaching from 3 till 9 at night. So it kind of felt to me like, well, if I've got this gap between 11 and 3 or whatever it was each day, I may as well do something in that time, and, it could have been, I could have easily gone to the gym or gone and played 9 holes or something, but I was like, I'm going to do something here. I had a camera, which was obviously for my coaching, like a Casio high-speed one. So I was like, well, I'm just going to put some content out there. So I did kind of went out there, and I knew nothing about video editing, knew nothing about sound, and knew nothing about anything, but literally just winged it. I think the first couple of videos I had the microphone, the headphones that came with my iPhone, and I had them sellotaped to my chest and then into my phone. So I was getting, it was just all like botched, but I was just kind of making it up as I went along. And so it was kind of got to the point where I was like, I got very much into, one video went up, 2 videos went up. You get the odd view, the odd comment. And I was like, this is good. And every time I had a gap in lessons, I was like, right, I'm going to get out there and do some content. And it just kind of started from there. And then it wasn't that long into that where I started to see a little bit of traction, maybe the odd email to say, hey, I've seen your video is going to come for a lesson. Nice. And kind of light bulb went off and thinking, okay, well, I can reach a lot of people doing this. And also the fact that I was wanting to help people play better golf. I knew that was a medium that I could use to get some messages across. And it just kind of snowballed from there, really. It was just kind of, the more videos you put up, the more comments you get, the more interactions you get, the subscribers go up, then you start to learn a little bit more about how to actually capture video, how to edit it, how to capture audio, and you start to just build it, really. And then what's really strange now is that what I find, look at where I am now, on a day-to-day basis, the work that I have and the skills that I need are completely different to what they were in 2006. 2006, I'm like, right, I need to, learn about the golf swing. I need to learn about how people move. I need to learn about how people learn. And now it's like, right, how can I get audio from 4 people? How can I capture, that? How can I change the picture profile? How can I expose for the right light? How can I edit? It's completely different skill set. But I love it. I'm one of those people who loves learning things. So I've had to kind of learn, the whole editing process and the whole filming process and something. But I think because I enjoyed it, and it was something that I actually, probably would have done almost as a bit of a hobby, it didn't feel hugely like work. Nice. And then, so you just keep pumping out the videos, keep putting the content out there, and then, it grows. And then the more people you reach, the more you grow, the more it kind of snowballs, and it gets to where you are today.
Brilliant. I was going to say something really interesting there. I completely forgot. Clearly, that was very interesting. What was I going to say? Anyway, maybe I'll come back to it. My mind's gone blank. We'll blame the COVID.
Yeah.
Let's talk about perhaps a little bit about like your mentors who sort of helped you along that way. from a YouTube point of view, is there someone like you look up to in the YouTube world, or like, obviously you love learning, but you've got to learn from someone. So who's sort of helped you with that?
Well, what's pretty interesting, and some people know this, some people don't. The first golf club I joined, there was a place called Oxley Park Golf Club.
Oh yeah.
I had to go for an interview, didn't have a suit, that kind of stuff. But I was like 13, 14. Anyway, I joined there as a junior member, didn't have a handicap, but just started working in the pro shop, was Piers Ward.
Yeah.
And also a member there was Andy Proudman.
Yeah.
Who are me and my golf. So I've known them since I was 12 or 13. We're, really good friends. And they were one of the first to do kind of YouTube. And I believe that I probably would have started a YouTube channel without them.
Yeah.
But I also believe that without them, I'd have given up pretty quick. And so I would say that they massively helped me in terms of, I'd put up, let's say 20, 30 videos. I'm on 15 subscribers. I've got 10 views. I would quite happily have gone, this is just a waste of my time. And it was them going, it will be like that. Just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And it will eventually kind of kick on.
Yeah.
So because they probably started, I don't know, maybe a year, 18 months before me, any question about how the hell do you get audio, I was going to them. How do you actually upload it onto YouTube? I was going to them. So they were the people who I was going to a lot of the time saying, I've no idea how to do this. How do you create a thumbnail? How do you upload it? They were the people who would kind of, and probably back then they were probably not hugely wise on it, but they were ahead in that journey. So they were massively influential, helpful to me.
Nice.
And anyone who knows Piers and Andy, they're very, very generous with their time and knowledge. So they were happy to help. And then really, other than that, because obviously the videos on YouTube are golf instruction, but it's still a video. It's still a video production. I'm generally looking at lots of different creators, not just golf creators, to see how they edit the videos, how they color grade the videos, how they use different angles and that kind of stuff. So generally, I'm taking inspiration and learning from loads of different creators. There's a few people. A guy called Peter McKinnon. He's a guy on YouTube. He does a lot of film tips, videography tips. All that kind of stuff goes in, really. So yeah, there's loads of different people who've had an influence and helped.
Brilliant. That's good. You must look back and be extremely proud and sort of, happy and like be maybe overwhelming that 313,000 followers, 300,000 followers follow you.
What I'm sort of proud of is that I loved coaching. I still love coaching. I love, helping someone get better, whether that's just hit a better shot or whether that's drop handicap. But I was definitely, as my teaching diary was getting fuller, I remember back when I was coaching, one of the things that people always used to say to me, and this isn't about golf, and I'd say I'm self-employed, and they'd say, that must be just a perfect scenario. You can work when you want. I was like, I can't work when I want. I have to work weekends when people are off. I have to work evenings when people finish work. I don't get to choose rough kind of when I work. So I was coaching 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday. 4 of those days I was working till 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Very often I would be going in at 8 o'clock in the morning, finishing at 9 at night. So you're thinking that's like, crazy long day, but I'd only have 6 hours of lessons. And I just remember thinking, there's just got to be a better way, because I was thinking, I was single at the time, but I was thinking if ever I get married, have family, I don't want to be working 6 days a week. I don't want to be working till 9 o'clock at night. And because of the stuff that's happened on socials and YouTube and the way I've kind of changed my business, I now work Monday to Friday. I get weekends off with my 2 boys. I rarely work past 5:30. I can take them to preschool in the morning, pick them up. That's what really pleased me the most, that I kind of recognized the situation, maybe some 10 years ago and thought there's a better way of doing this. And it is for me now. I'm still a golf coach. I'm still delivering golf coaching, but I've got a better work-life balance. And that's kind of what's made me the proudest, I think.
Massive, isn't it? I love that you've that family sort of orientated, and I'm very much that way as well. And we had a discussion. We've got young kids, and Yeah, they're great fun, and it's a big part of your life, right? So you need to be.
Absolutely. I will say there are certain days when the boys are being a bit hard work that I wish I was out of the house for sort of 13 hours.
Is that why you built a studio in your garage?
Yeah, that's why I built my office out there.
Office out
Yeah,
there, yeah.
because they were just so noisy in the house.
Lock the door.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a studio then. You haven't gone full Rick Shields on us.
No, it's just an office just to, because I probably spend 2.5, 3 days working from home now.
Yeah.
And just being able to go out my house, walk a little bit, have an office which is just away from the house. For me, it just helps me sort of separate the work and the life a little bit better. So
That's good. That's good. Have you got a putting green in there?
got to put in mat.
Putting mat?
But it's not big enough.
Practice your putting?
A little bit. I get the odd sort of 5 minutes where I jump on there and roll a few. Yeah. I mean, my putting is generally, my general game ever since I started the game was the closer to the green I got, the worse I was. So driving I was okay, iron play okay, wedges a bit dodgy, pitching even worse, chipping dodgy, putting terrible. So the closer to the green I got, the worse I got.
Is that still the case?
Yeah.
You got a push bias in your putting stroke.
I've got a read. My read is poor, my pace is poor, and I struggle to hit my start lines. So if I hole a putt, it's purely down to 2 wrongs making a right.
So the next couple of questions I've got, which is on putting tips for the listeners, are going to go down a storm.
Well, yeah, because surely
whatever Chris says, listen, do the opposite, and you'll be all right. Is that what we're going to say?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Dear, how do you read greens? And have you come across aim point?
Yeah, so I tend to use aim point in its most basic form in terms of I'll just straddle the line to sort of get a feel of the break, and I'd say over the last couple of years I've got a little bit better at that.
Yeah.
What I've actually found hard, and I don't know whether you've got any experience of this, is when I started to judge that a little better. I actually found it difficult to see. I'm doing a little kind of inverted things here. Yeah. See the putt one way, feel it another way, and trust the feel when it looks, so different. Because I'd spent, however long I've been playing golf, reading greens by what I see, to then stand on it and feel something different. To actually trust that when it looks a different way. But I don't play as much golf as I kind of used to, but I'm starting to trust my feet more than my eyes. And I think that's interesting that it's, I could sort of get the basis of aim points, but it was trusting it on the golf course.
I think it's a valid point. There's no magic answer here to say to the listeners, look, just forget what your eyes say, just trust your feet. If it looks like it's doing something different, to trust it takes time, and it does take time. And I've been fortunate to be part of Aim Point for sort of 7 years now, and put 1,000 students through it, and every single one of them can feel slope. I make sure they leave the clinic feeling slope. But there's always going to be a time where you get on the golf course, and I've had it, you're talking about there, where you feel the slope and it looks like it's doing something different, and then you've got conflict, and then you've got to say, right, who am I going to trust here? So I think the read is aim point with the feet, eyes with your eyes, but I think there's always going to be a blend of the two. It always should be. For each individual, that blend might be slightly a different blend, but it's an interesting one. But the more you practice it, the better you get, I think. And
I think
go on, yeah.
I think it's a process of kind of continually learning on it. I mean, it's the more you do it, the better you get.
Totally. You've got to use your eyes to watch the ball, to then say, did it break like I felt like that was a 2? Did it break like a 2? And if it didn't break like a 2, you learn from it, and that's great because you're gonna get better if you learn from it. So I don't think getting it right is necessarily the important thing. The important thing is asking yourself, did it do what I expected it to, and learning from it. So it's cool. It's interesting to talk about that.
Yeah. I think I would say if I have any of that conflict, then I'd probably say maybe in the last 6 months, I'd be more going with what my feet tell me.
Good.
Whereas before that, I'd just revert to, maybe I've not done aim point long enough, so I'll go with what my eyes see. But then, like you say, you learn from it, and I go, should have listened to what my feet say. And it's just getting that process. If I do get a bit of conflict, I'm trying to go, right, forget what you see, go with what you feel, and it's getting there.
Your eyes play tricks on you, don't they? It can look like it's going one way and it looks like it'll break, or it could, you've heard people say that putt broke uphill. No putt has ever broken uphill. It's physics. The ball will follow the slope.
Yeah.
But your eyes play tricks on you and optical illusions. So your feet don't lie. You won't fall over uphill. That's what I always say.
No, unless you just go out the Bel Air.
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to your putting videos. 5 years ago, you put out a putting video that was called Never Three Putt Again, and it's one of the most viewed videos that you've put out there. It's in the top 4, and I think I put down the figure of somewhere around the 600,000 mark, but I can't see that written down. But anyway, so I had a lot of traction. You gave 3 tips in that video without pre-warning you. Do you remember what they are?
I could have a guess, but I don't remember now.
So let's have a guess of, you've got to give the listeners 3 tips to not 3 putt ever again, and see if they're close to what the 3 tips were 5 years ago.
So what I think there probably would have been something about the first putt, trying to get it closer. So I'm guessing that would have been along the lines of pace. Is that right?
On one step before pace, maybe the first tip was. We've just been talking about it.
Oh, okay. Read it. So you've got to get the read right. So I think my thought process now, and whether it's changed in 5 years, would be, if you're looking to reduce 3 putts, it has to start with getting your first putt closer. Yeah. So I probably would have looked, you've told me that. It would have been making sure the read is right, making sure the pace is right. And then the third tip would probably have been something on how to then convert that short put. Was that close?
Kind of, maybe. So the first tip, which I thought was nice, was to walk the putt. Yeah. So you said walk on the low side, walk around the hole. And what's interesting is what you said there, and this might have been before you learned aim pointing. You said you will see and you will feel in your feet the contours of the green. Thought smart, good, like it. Then you talked about, which is linked to speed, which is doing your practice swings, looking at the hole and the line. I thought that was a nice little tip that that the listeners can try, which is, I think, very important. Going back to what we were talking about a minute ago, I think you've got to make a decision on the read. You've got to visualize what a good putt looks like, and then you've got to practice what a good putt feels like. So that's what you're saying then, and very much placing your attention more at the line and the hole rather than people can look at the putter, right?
Yeah.
And the third one, which was great, which was placing your attention on striking out of the middle, because if it's not out of the middle, you're going to lose energy and struggle to get the ball to the hole. So the tip was to see the ground where the ball was. So I thought that was nice, Chris. Well, good job.
That was 5 years ago. That was crazy. I can't remember where I filmed it. I can't remember the video. I think what I find interesting, and you're going to probably have some better case studies on this or some better data, but what I find, and this kind of works back through, let's say, chipping or pitching, is that people often, I don't coach as much in person now as I used to, but people often say, like, my feel is really terrible. I'm short or I'm long. And what I would often sort of look at is, they're, let's say, putting, let's say they're 20 feet away. They're putting a certain speed in that stroke, which might be perfectly appropriate to get the ball to the hole, but they hit it a little bit out the toe. They maybe don't recognize that it was a little bit out the toe, so it comes up short. So the next time you give them another ball, they put more speed in, when that wasn't really the issue. They hit the middle, and that one goes 8 feet past, and they're looking at me going, "See, my feel is terrible." I'm like, "It's not your feel; it's your technique is causing you to not recognize or really understand what's creating the ball distance." You know, that first putt, if they hit at the toe, all they needed to do was put the same speed on, but hit out the middle. And it's the same. I find that with pitching as well. You know, someone might hit a 50-yard pitch shot, then the next time they hit one, they might just launch it 3 or 4 degrees higher, so it lands 10 yards shorter, and they go, "Oh, see, my feel's terrible. I've got to hit it harder." And you're like, "No, it's," you know, and it's kind of that analysis. So anytime they, you know, let's say deliver a different amount of loft with a putter, or if they hit it from the toe with a heel, or they leave the face, it's going to change how far the ball rolls. And they kind of then go, "Oh, my pace was wrong," which it was, but it's kind of looking at dialing down deep into, well, what caused that to be incorrect?
Yeah,
no, hard to do for a lot of people, I guess, unless you've got tech like you will have.
Yeah, you know, there's simple ways to check your strike, isn't there? You can put elastic bands or blue tack around the face, see if you're hitting out the middle, for different lengths of putts. You know, launch can be, you can lose energy from launch. That can be a little bit more difficult to measure, but iPhones these days, slow motion videos, watch the ball, and it should, you know, launch without backspin or topspin ideally. And it's always going to launch. So yeah, you know, I think there are ways for players to check those energy killers. Acceleration's a big one as well in there.
Yeah.
So another video you put out on Instagram just probably about a week ago was you're talking on using Blast and sort of mentioning that how players change the environment. I'm sure you remember that video. Can you talk more about that for us?
So this is something I kind of really try and drill this home with students that I work with. And I think putting is a little different in that you can practice putting at home. And I'll create a scenario to kind of, you know, highlight the point. Let's say I get a golfer in who kind of strokes it a little all over the place. You know, they're not hitting their start lines. They're just maybe missing it left, missing it right. So I might say to them, "Okay, this is what we need to do. We'll change your setup a little bit. We'll change your grip position, whatever it may be. And here's a little gate. You know, we can all buy these gates. That's going to give you the feedback." And they might go home and they might set up a mat on their living room floor and do some drills and that kind of stuff. And they'll come back 3 weeks later and say, "I can start the ball online, you know, because I've done now 30 putts and I'm getting 28, 29 to go through the gate. I can start the ball online." And I say, "No, you can't." I say, "That's level 1. You know, there's no hole. There's no outcome. You're literally just put that." So level 2 there's got to be an outcome. There's got to be a hole, which changes sometimes how a person, you know, delivers the putter and how they move the putter. And then it's kind of, okay, once there's a hole and an outcome, if you can do that, I still don't think you can start the ball online. You can just do it at level 2. Level 3 is, well, there's got to be a hole and an outcome, and there's break involved. So now the target is now completely different in your eye line relative to where the start line is. That can influence your, you know, your ability to do that. And what I often find is that the golfer who says, "I can start the ball online," you put them on left to right and right to left breaking putts, and suddenly they can't start the ball online. So that for me is kind of level 3. And then level 4 is, well, I need to be able to start the ball online with a breaking putt under pressure. And for everybody, that's different. It might be the winning putt for the Masters. It might be just to beat your playing partner on a Saturday. It might be to get your handicap down. Pressure is different for everybody. But I feel that environment, pressure, slopes, that influences how, excuse me, how a golfer can or does deliver the putter. And I think there's too many people out there who will, you know, at home, roll it through a gate and then walk onto the golf course in the monthly medal and go, "Well, I didn't put very well, but I could do it at home." And it's like, well, you haven't quite gone through the steps and the measures to get to that point.
I love that, Chris. I love the way you broke the sort of skill down. And I think it's a lovely way for the listeners to try that 4 steps to see where it does break down. And then they know specifically at what stage. So it's a nice one. I love that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, you know, if I struggle to start the ball online and you give me a putting gate at home, I might miss the gate the first 3 or 4 times, and then I might figure out how to get it through.
Yeah.
if I then, miss that, let's say the first 4 or 5 and then roll the next 10 through, I can sort of think to myself, that was pretty good. And I get this kind of positive, I did well. But when I go on the course, I don't have those first 4 putts and those next 10. I've got to walk onto a green having, not hit a putt for 5-6 minutes, pull out my putter, read it, and start it through that line. Okay, if I don't do it, I've got to walk to the next green. So we can definitely, in practice, in a controlled environment, we can build this full sense of consistency and this full sense of performance, and then wonder why we can't do it on the course. And it's like, well, there's too big of a gap between the way that they're practicing and how they're trying to perform. And practice for me has to be working on bridging that gap and how we can take it from your living room, your office to the golf course. And it's not just as simple as I can do it at home, therefore I should be able to do it on the course. For me, it doesn't work like that. And yeah, like you say, if we can give them some steps and they can follow those steps, they'll see where it's breaking down and they can start to then be specific in their practice. And I think, again, you'll have a better idea. If you gave 100 golfers 20 minutes on the putting green, I would hazard a guess that 90 of those would waste those 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because they don't actually know what they need to work on. They'll just go and hit a few putts. Whereas if you go through some processes and you have some little systems in place and you say, right, here, Ollie, you got 20 minutes. You're going to go, right, well, I know that my start line and my left to right breaking putts is poor. I'm going to go and practice that. It's so much more specific. And I think that's how I want golfers to think about their golf games. For me, if you're trying to get better at golf, how is the most important question you ask yourself? Someone says, I want to get better at putting. Okay, how? Well, I need to improve my pace. Okay, how? And it starts to get them to think a little bit more, just rather than the generalization of I need to be better at putting. Oh, great. Where do we start?
Yeah, it can be a big old minefield out there.
Yeah, exactly.
So just recapping, so the 4 steps. So you need a gate. So the best place to get gates, Vizio, they're the best. If you haven't got a Vizio gate or you're not going to buy one, you can put 2 cups upside down on your carpet at home, a pink tee width apart, which is 57 mil, 14 inches away. So you can start on your carpet at home doing that. Next step is introducing the hole.
Yeah, and I would personally try and do that actually on a green.
Outside,
So the environment feels a little bit more golf coursey.
Okay.
You haven't got your slippers on. Yeah.
You're not chilled. Like it. And then outside again, 3rd step is introducing break. So left to right, right to left, and see if you still have the ability to, put the gate in the right place and then start the ball on line through the gate. And then doing it under a pressure. So trying to sort of create that pressure environment that you might have 12 tees around the hole at 6 foot and you got a hole 9 or whatever it might be for that level of golfer. Brilliant. Okay, that's a nice one. Thank you.
That's right. I think the hardest one of those is actually the last one, isn't it? Trying to create pressure. Because deep down, you're practicing, you're on the putting green. But yeah, if you can give yourself like a goal or a target, almost like I can't leave the putting green until I can do X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. That it's definitely having consequences, isn't it? That's the key to help build up the pressure. Okay, going away from putting, your most viewed video, do you know what it is?
3-wood?
Yeah, fairway woods. And I thought that was quite interesting because I thought it was going to be slice or more distance. But do you know what? Think about it. The hardest club in the bag probably to use is the fairway wood off the ground because the drive, at least you get pegged up.
Yeah. Exactly.
Can you give us a bit of a tip for the listeners who may struggle with their fairway woods?
So, I mean, my understanding of why that video is done well is exactly what you say. I just think the 3-wood is probably the most difficult club in the bag to hit, because it's the longest club that we hit off the ground. And I think, a lot of people, I would say, depending on handicap and speed, but for a lot of people, probably 4-wood, 5-wood might even be a better option than the 3-wood, especially if you're pushing driver to, 12 degrees. You don't really need a 3-wood at 15. But anyway.
Why is a 15-degree 3-wood hard? Why is it hard?
Well, I just think, technology now is better, the way the club's are designed, but in very simple terms, what creates height, and again, it always makes me kind of chuckle when I ask this question, so they say, what create height on a shot? You'll get all sorts of, backswing turn or wrists, or, you think, well, it's just the angle that the ball takes off at, the speed that the ball has got, and the spin plays a role as well. That creates height, So height is coming from the angle the ball takes off at and basically how long the ball is rising for.
Yeah.
If you've got less speed, the ball rises for a shorter time. Therefore, you kind of need to balance that out with more loft. So you've got, let's say, a 3-wood, which is 15 degrees. That's the lowest lofted club you hit off the ground. And if someone's got low speed, we've got a recipe for just not a very good ball flight. Kind of low launch, low speed. It's going to land probably no longer than one of their rescues or something. So that's why I think 15 degrees is difficult. You can get a club now, or you can get clubs where the weight is a lot more set down and low. You can increase that launch, which is massively important. You can increase the spin. But I think a lot of people will potentially grab a 3-wood, have low speed, have low launch, see this low ball flight. It's not particularly functional on the golf course. And rather than sort of realizing that it might be down to those factors, they then will start to, maybe modify their technique subconsciously to try and get a little bit more height. And very often the things that we do to create height subconsciously, kind of leaning back and maybe working towards a little bit more of a positive attack angle, will generally just move the contact point down the club face towards the sort of bottom couple of grooves, if there are any grooves. And then we know gear effect affects, and that de-lofts it, and suddenly the ball goes even lower, and it's just a bit of a kind of spiral, and it doesn't end well. So I think, first of all, I'd say just make sure the club's loft is suitable. It may well be the case that, a 4-wood, which is, let's say, 16.5 degrees, or even a 5-wood, which might be 18 degrees, potentially will carry further than a 3-wood for a lot of golfers.
Even a 7-wood, like I know, like people think of a 7-wood as what your granny should have, but do you know what I mean? It's got a bit of a, I'm not a 7-wood, but like beautiful clubs because it sort of launches it high, just goes forever.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do any club fitting now, but I used to do quite a bit back in the day. And I used to try and get the point across to a lot of people was the names that you have for clubs, 3-wood, 5-wood, 7-woods, sandwich, pitching wedge, forget them. Literally forget them, because the number of times I would do a fitting and then someone would be performing better with a 13.5 degree driver because they needed that. They're gaining yardage, they're gaining carry, it's more consistent, and they're like, brilliant, love that, 13.5 degree driver, I'm all in. Right, I need a 3-wood. And I'm like, no, you don't. You need a 5-wood. And they're like, well, I've got to have a 3-wood. So, no, but everyone carries a 3-wood. I'm like, forget the names of the clubs. If you've got a driver at 13.5 degrees, the next one you need is around about 17, 18.
Yeah.
Call it your 3-wood if you want. Call it whatever you want. But it's the name. Yeah, exactly. The names of the clubs kind of, and it's kind of like, same with, what's my sand wedge? What's my pitching wedge? What's my lob wedge? Forget the names. What's loft to your 9-iron? And then figure out from there how you're going to get through. Add a bit and call them what you want. So I think having a 4-wood or a 5-wood is beneficial for a lot.
Yeah.
But there will be people out there who will think, well, I've got to have a 3-wood because it's just, that's what you do. Is you have a driver, you have a 3-wood, and you have a 5-wood, and in there. But I think once you've got the right kind of loft and you've called it whatever you want to call it, it's just strike with those clubs, because it's just making sure that, and I think with the 3-wood, with the driver, you can peg it up. If I hit 1 degree up on a driver or 8 degrees up, I can get a pretty good result.
Yeah.
If I've got a 7-iron and I've got enough speed, I can hit 1 or 2 down. I can hit 7 down. With a 3-wood, you kind of got a little bit of a sort of narrower margin, really. You kind of want to be 1, 2 down to level. You start hitting up a little bit terrible. You start hitting 4 or 5 down. There's no flight there. So I just feel like that window of attack angle is narrower with a 3, 4, 5-wood.
Interesting. I've never thought about that, but yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I think when you've got speed, it opens up that window. So for someone who's got low speed with a 7-iron, their window might be quite narrow again. kind of level to 1 to 2 down.
Yeah.
You start getting them 7 down and then there's no flight. But I mean, if you pick like a Rory, he could hit 7 or 8 down on an iron and still get a good flight. Then he could hit level and it's okay. Whereas that 3-wood, I feel like that window is a lot narrower and it's harder to miss that window. And then when you miss that window, it's a pretty poor result, really.
Good. Okay. Yeah. Good discussions. The majority of the listeners will have a slice. What's the percentage of golfers that have got a slice? Do we know of the 10,000 you've taught? How many do you reckon have had a slice? None of them, because you fixed them all.
Yeah, none of them now. That'd be a good claim, wouldn't it? It's got to be above 70%.
High percentage.
I'd say above 70 who hit it right.
Okay.
There's different ways of getting it there, but yeah, leaking out right. Yeah, high percentage.
Have you got one tip for the listeners to go, yeah, that's me, I'm a slicer? Can you do one little thing to try and take to the range this afternoon to give a go?
So can I tell you a little story first, and then I'll go into.
We'll have a story.
This is one of, in terms of my career doing inverted commas again. This is one of the best lessons I've ever learned for myself.
Okay.
I was relatively early into my coaching at the Belfry, and this guy, he was a regular range user. He'd come up 3 or 4 times a week, hit balls, lovely guy, played off 18, big slice, huge slice, and he started having some lessons with me. First lesson, he said, "Oh, it's got this slice. It's horrible. I've always sliced it. It just starts and goes way right." And it was a pretty typical kind of weakish grip. Face was open, glanced across it. Everything was a slice. And he played off 18. And he would always play on a weekend with the same group of people, same, 3-4 ball. And they all drew the ball, is what he said. Now, whether it was a draw or whether it was just a bit of a pull or whatever.
Less of a slice.
Yeah, exactly. So no, we went through a few lessons and it kind of progressed over, let's say, 6 months, and we'd strengthened his grip a little bit and we'd done a bit of club face work. And he started to hit little draws, the odd sort of pull left, going left, but the odd one that started about right, about straight and kind of turned over. And he got to the point where he'd come to the range and he'd stand up there with driver and he'd hit, whatever, how many balls, and they'd all be slightly draws, the odd right, but nothing really a slice. And I remember him saying to me about maybe a year, and he said, he goes, "I just can't thank you enough." He says, "I'm just so much happier on the golf course now." He said, I just love going to play golf, playing with my 4 playing partners, and I hit it the same shape as them." And he goes, it's just brilliant. And I said, "What are you playing off now?" He said, 19. So he'd gone up by 1. And it really just got me thinking that golf is different to everybody. He didn't really care what he played off, but he just didn't want to slice it. He'd grown up slicing the ball. He hated it. His playing partners did, and and I gave him what he wanted. And he was technically a worse golfer. His handicap gone up by 1. And I think what I would say with someone who slices it is, if it was like this medium with a podcast, I'd be going, right, get rid of the slice, just get rid of it. And very often, if you can get someone who slices it and get them to pull hook it left in the trees, it's no better than being right in the trees. No. But they're kind of happier. They're like, "Oh, I've got rid of my slice. It's going further." And then they can maybe, aim a little bit right or ease off it a little bit. And they can kind of maybe get that back into play. But I think we as, I'm going really off tangent here, but I think we as an industry, I'm not putting you in this because you might take yourself out of it, but as an industry, we drum in so hard. What's your handicap? What's your handicap goal? What do you want to shoot? What's your best score? And I'm like, it's all score related. And I don't see that from the people I coach. I see from the people I coach, I see emotional requests, as in, what can I do for you today? I'm terrible at bunkers. Every time I go in a bunker, it scares the life out of me. It makes me not enjoy the game. I'm just fearing the bunkers. If I can get them out of the bunker, they're happier. It's not scoring to them. They might not drop the handicap. They might not start to score better, but it's that feeling that they get on the golf course. Or it might be the golfer who plays in the same 4 ball. He's always the shortest and he doesn't want to be, he wants to be the longest. You might give him 20 yards. Doesn't mean his scores are going to come down. And he might not come down. But it's about giving them what they want. My Alexa's going off now. Alexa, stop. Because I'm back in the house now. So in terms
I love that, by the way. Sorry to interrupt there. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That is, I think, powerful. And I think it is something in our industry we miss, that it's all, score, play better. If you lower your handicap, we had Fred Shoemaker on the podcast a few months ago, and he was talking about, golfers want to play with freedom. They want to be stress free. They want to have peace of mind. They want to self coach. It's not about, I want to get my handicap down. It's all about enjoyment. And if we can do that and help golfers lead a happier life, because they're not going in that bunker, and as soon as they get into it, you can see that they're getting all twitchy and all agitated and they tightening up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, I'll answer your question in a minute about the slides, but one of the things I find interesting is that sometimes I can see a coach or someone in the golf industry affecting what I call the journey. And that's not what we should do. So for example, if I said to myself, right, I want to lose X amount of weight in 6 weeks. Okay. I've got a goal, which is obviously to lose weight. The journey is not fun. I don't enjoy it, because I've got to watch what I eat. I've got to go to the gym. I've got to do all those kind of things. It's not a good, fun journey, but I might enjoy the goal. You get the golfer who goes to the range with his mates, hits a few balls, has a chat. He goes and does a bit of chipping, does a bit of putting, maybe practice a couple of times, goes plays at the weekend. And he might come in and say, I'll play off 18. I'd love to be off 14. So he's got a goal. That's that 14. But he just enjoys the journey. He enjoys the process of going to the range with his mates. And if you start saying to him, okay, instead of going to the range with your mates, I want you to go down in the end bay. I want you to do this drill for 20 minutes where the ball's going 15 yards. And then I want you to do a chipping game where you're marking your score and you record your results on your phone. It's like, well, you've made the journey really unfun. And it's like, so I'm not going to do that. Because the goal of getting from 18 to 15 is not worth not enjoying the journey, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm really conscious when someone comes to me and says, right, I want to drop my handicap by 5, I'm trying to get a gauge of how much are they enjoying the journey? How big of a part is that? Now, flip side of that, if you get someone like, and put a name out here, Jordan Spieth, who says, I want to be world number 1, that's his massive goal. You might think, well, he's probably prepared to spend 3 hours in the range not enjoying it. He's prepared to go to the gym not enjoying it, because it's that the end goal is for him bigger than the journey. But I think for a lot of golfers, they enjoy the journey more than they enjoy the goal. And I think we have to respect that. And I think that's, for me, why a lot of people don't invest in changes, because we influence or we affect their journey too much and we take the enjoyment out of that journey. So in terms of fixing a slice, answering your question, get that lead hand grip, turn it right the way over the golf club, so you can kind of see almost all of the back of your hand. So you can see all those knuckles. Your thumb is going to sit to the trail side if you're a right-hander. That will change the club face. Change the club face, you change your slice. Simple as that. You've got to do it. And you can move that hand over as much as you can until you start seeing the ball flight a little bit different.
Love it. That's good.
That's the quickest way I would change a slice.
Yeah.
And that might not be long-term, the most consistent way of playing golf, but if that person's in front of me, we just got to change the ball flight. We just got to get them that ball has got to do something different off the club face. And that's, I think, how I would do it. And
then, and that emotionally would make, if they see a ball going pull hook into the trees left, they feel amazing.
Absolutely.
And we've got to accept that that's okay, because it's not like, for our mind, it's like, we're better off in that 10-yard fade. But they might be happy. So okay.
Also as a coach, if you're working with someone, if you can say to them, right, you've got a slice, and they go, I've sliced it for 12 years, and you go, I can change that. If you get them to give a super strong grip and they pull hook it, then at least they're looking at you going, God, this guy or this girl knows what they're on about. Then they might go play for 3 or 4 rounds, pull hook in it. They're a bit happier. Then they might come back to you, and then you can start to, refine that a little bit and
start aiming right and start
exactly.
Shifting the path. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yeah. Chris, really enjoyed the chat. I nearly called you Louis then. Really enjoyed that chat. Thank you so much for your time. Can you just share with the listeners your channel? Where do they go? Well, obviously they go to YouTube, but Google your name, you'll find it all. But and also your online packages that you've got available, and some new ones you were saying, exciting things come in that might be of interest to the listeners.
Yeah, so everything's Chris Ryan Golf. So it's Chris Ryan Golf on YouTube, Chris Ryan Golf on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Don't do a lot on Twitter. So yeah, everything's Chris Ryan Golf, and the website is chrisryangolf.com as well. So hopefully fairly easy to find them all. Yeah, so the website it's got a couple of training courses on there, a couple more, as you say, to go on, which are actually a Slice series, and also a kind of winter fitness series, which don't worry, it's not me doing that. I've got someone in to do that. But yeah, that's for me is, in terms of online, that's how I feel like I can get more of my coaching style across. It's kind of walking someone through a process of how do I go from where I am to where I want to be. The problem with online platforms like YouTube, Instagram, you're very much relying on the person deciding what content they want to watch, which can work. But on the training course, for example, the Slice series, it's not trying random drills, it's not trying random tricks or tips. It's actually a systematic approach of, okay, you're a slicer, this is how you get from where you are to where you want to be. So there's a ball striking series on there, there's a speed series on there, and then there's a Slice series going up in the next month, we'll sort of call it. Give me a bit of time to get that sorted.
Brilliant. Chris, I've really enjoyed it. I'm sure listeners have. So many, great nuggets, from processes to systems to mindset, and the simplicity of the way you talk and deliver it is wonderful. So yeah, wish you all the best, and thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me on. Me and Alexa, anyway.
Thank you. Cheers, Chris.